Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It's a beautiful Thursday morning, July 18th, 2024. We get together with our distribution partners and all others. Everyone's welcome most weekday mornings at this time to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. Ultimately, we have a twofold goal. The first of which is to improve financial literacy, especially in the small business marketplace. And then, secondly, increase access to capital. And those two work pretty well together. I think if your experiences are similar to mine, then there's many entrepreneurs, many small business owners. Maybe they have an idea, maybe they have an early stage business, or maybe they've been operating it for a bit. But in many cases, there's a thirst, a need, a want for capital, more money to be able to start or grow their business. But often they overlook the very obvious element that you and I focus on, which is it doesn't matter how badly you need money or how badly you want money, you must qualify for it. And so, in our terminology, your and my terminology, we talk about having a fundable business. It's not made up, it's not make believe, it's not hyperbole, but there's certain elements that most lenders look for when determining if they're going to loan a business money, how much money they're going to loan to them, and what the risk is, thus what the interest rate would be. I was talking to one of our partners, Petros, and he's on today's Zoom. So, Petros, if you have anything you want to chime in, let me know. But Petros and I were visiting yesterday, and we have kind of heated debates, all working towards the same end goal. But he pretty much insisted that we uh, scramble today's topic and come back and reintroduce the startup program because he and I think most of you realize this is a remarkable package to help the average small business owner have a fundable business. So we're going to spend a few minutes today revisiting what this is, what it's not, how it works, and make sure that you know of its availability. And again, Petros, thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you for recommending this topic today. If at any point any of you have questions, comments, concerns, you'll type that into the Q&A, the question and answer. So if we go to the backstory, we applied for a grant. It was early last year, and then we received it, I think, third quarter of last year, which would be 2023, because we really felt that there was a need to go to the marketplace and have a turnkey package that provided so many of the credibility points needed for funding, but frankly, often small businesses don't have. So we actually were awarded the grant and we rolled this out late last year. But let's go ahead and revisit the startup package and then answer any and all questions. We'll be very transparent, of course, as always. So, what is the startup business funding package? It's a turnkey resource to form a new business. Now, as soon as we say this, then it starts to bring up questions. Well, what if I already have a business? What if I don't want a new business? Well, that's a good point. So if a client has an existing business, they're still welcome to enroll. That's not a problem. And we can remove any of the deliverables that they don't want or need. So first, and Petros just typed that into the Q&A to emphasize, thank you, Petros, that yes, this is the full package. However, if a client doesn't need all these things, which we're going to go through in just a moment, it's okay. We can opt out of it. So it doesn't disqualify them. So frankly, we often have entrepreneurs that have owned businesses for a while that still enroll in the startup package. And that could be implemented either by creating a new business that's fundable and leaving their current business alone, or in fact, plugging their current business into this curriculum. So yeah, thank you, Petros, for pointing that out. I want to make sure that that's clear. So who can participate? Anyone that wants to. They can have an idea and not a business yet, or they could already have the business if they feel that the deliverables would complement what they need to get fundable. Okay, so we've covered the who can participate. Now let's go through the what. One of the first things that we do when clients enroll in the startup business funding package, and as far as enrollment, it's done right here, by the way, step 2, but that's not the point. One of the first things we want to do is go ahead and get them their first tranche funding offers. And we had a full training curriculum on that yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's training, you may want to go back. You learned about David. David is one of our clients and also distribution partners. And so for his first tranche funding, we just wrapped that up yesterday. That's why we focused on his success story yesterday. But he ended up with $50,000 to $60,000 of first tranche funding right out of the gate. So that's the first thing that we're going to do for any clients that enroll in the startup grant is get them offers of what they qualify for now. And just like we talked about yesterday, there's a bunch of things we're going to do, which we'll discuss in detail as part of the program. So their first tranche is based upon what they qualify for initially. All right, so now let's start getting into the deliverables, and I want to describe the what and the why. The what is what's included, of course, at no cost, and then the why do we include it? And that should contribute and reinforce your understanding of what does it take to have a fundable business? Because what did we say in the beginning? It truthfully doesn't matter how badly someone wants money or how badly they need money. They need to meet the underwriting criteria, what you and I call they need to be fundable. And that's what we're delivering. So once we get them their first round of funding, so they have some working capital, now we're going to start the implementation of the process. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to provide them a unique business address. A unique business address is important. It's very important. Why is it important? Because when we apply for funding, we should not be using a residential address. We should not be using a shared commercial address like a WeWork or a Regus where they give you a suite number, but it's also a suite number used by other businesses. So that's the first deliverable that we provide is a unique address that is not a shared address. Now, with that being said, let's say that the client already has a unique business address. What did we say earlier? That's fine. They don't have to partake in each of these deliverables, but these are the deliverables that are included for free. So there's number 1, unique business address. If you need us to discuss more why that's important, we can go through it, but I think we're all on the same page. So that's the first deliverable. Then we're going to go file with the Secretary of State to form a new business. Well, why is that? Because this is the startup package and we need to go create a business. So again, if they already have an address and or a business, then those deliverables could just simply be unplugged. But the grant's premise was how can we take anyone off the street and help them have a fundable business. And so these are the elements. So the address, and then we file with the Secretary of State. We get some interesting questions about this, but it's very clear. The client is the owner of the business, 100% owner of the business. So no, we don't own any part of the business. We don't wiggle our way in to take control. So it's clean, right? So Secretary of State, we do the filing, which means we're the organizer, but the client is the owner with no fuzziness going on. Now, let's say you have a client and they say, well, this sounds interesting, but I already have a business. What we often do is help evaluate, okay, is your current business a good platform to work off of? If it's been around, have you been filing taxes? If your business has been around, do you have good bank statements to show that the business is solvent? Have you done anything to build the business credit profile? I'll tell you, often people that have had businesses, they inaccurately assume that it's valuable just because their business has been around, even though it's not fundable. So we would work, and so I would tell you this, probably 7 out of 10 times when we have a client that enrolls in the startup package and we do our intake consult with them, 7 out of 10 times they end up wanting to form a new business for the purpose of the capital raise because the business that they have has issues with it. But regardless, we can go either way. So unique first round funding, unique address, file Secretary of State. Now this order is important, right? Because when we file with the Secretary of State, we have to have an address. Some people will do this backwards. They'll want to go file with the Secretary of State, have a bad address, and then get an address later. Well, that can be reversed, but it has to be cleaned up. We want to go in the natural flow. So these bullets could even be numbered. This is the order of the steps we go through. All right, so they've got money in their pocket. They have an address, a unique business address. We have an entity that's been filed. We file a lot of new entities, anywhere from 25 to 75 a day on average. And so then we file it, we notify the client when the filing's gone out, and then when the documentation comes back, then we send that to the client. Next thing that we need to do is get our EIN number. And so that's our employer identification number. It's like a social security number, but for a business. And this is where you'll really see a lot of financial illiteracy. You'll have people that say, oh, I already have an EIN. Well, that EIN is attached to some other business, right? So are we doing the capital raise off that some other business? It's like a social security number. You can't say, well, I'm going to go get a social security number, but I haven't given birth to the child yet, or my spouse or wife or significant other hasn't given birth. No, the entity comes first, then we get the EIN. Some people will reverse that. Then, of course, we'll get a bank account. So now, once we've done these three things, now we have the foundation of a fundable business. Is it fundable? Absolutely not. But we have the foundation. If we don't have these three elements, plus a bank account, which isn't shown there, but I mentioned it, then we're not ready really to go forward. Even if you have a client that has all three of these highlighted items, it's okay. They can still participate in the startup program because you'll see that the rubber hits the road in the subsequent three steps. So let's move on. So once we have the fundable business infrastructure, now what we want to do is start adding primary trade lines, real primary trade lines that report on the businesses. Dun and Bradstreet reports. So they have a strong Paydex score. They look good with Experian business, good with Equifax business. So that's the what. But remember, we said we would discuss the why as well. Well, why in the world would we do that? Well, why is that necessary? Because we want to be fundable, right? That's the goal. The goal is to go get business funding. We understand, but as we've said several times, you can't just want that. You can't just need that. We need to have a fundable business. So one thing that most lenders will do is they'll pull a business credit report and say, how has this business performed in the past? Has it had access to credit? Has it paid as agreed? What's its business credit score? Just like a lender would look at you and me and our individual credit. We're moving away from individual credit, talking about business credit. So we need to strengthen the business credit. But the great news is business credit can be built much, much quicker than personal credit, and it can qualify for much, much more. Now, when we talk about these primary trade lines, these are the real deal. Nothing gray, nothing fuzzy. It could be real estate trade lines. It could be company automobile trade lines, company business cards, and so forth. But these are extensions of credit that are reflected on the business credit profile. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on building up the financials of the business. So often you're going to run into people that say, oh no, my financials, that doesn't matter. I'm a new business. Well, that is a sign of financial illiteracy. If you're trying to get funding, even though you have a new business, we need to look good and strong legally and ethically on paper. So that's one of the things that we know is important. And so we do. So we built in when we applied for the grant. So we will transfer assets, really transfer over to the client's balance sheet. What does that do? Improves their liquidity and collateral. We've talked many other times about the 3 C's when it comes to funding: credit, meaning business credit, collateral, and capacity. So that's where this C fits in. It's one of the three C's. Most lenders are going to look for collateral for funding. And a lot of businesses don't have much collateral. So that's why it's important that they come through the startup program so we can provide that. Lastly, one of the perks is that what you and I should know is that there are different lenders, lots and lots of different lenders in the marketplace. There's not just one. So there's lots of different buckets of money. And different lenders have different loan programs. Even with the SBA, there's 7A, 7A Express, 504, and so forth. So there's lots of variants. Also, some lenders don't operate nationally. Some of them operate regionally, some only in a given state, some only in given geographic areas of a given state. And so the Chapman Fund is a really interesting source. It comes from a taxing authority, so it doesn't even involve applying through a bank. The Chapman Fund has a limited geographic area. The great news is that when we provide an address, it's going to match the Chapman Fund's geographic area. Lots of good things about the Chapman Fund, but it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, right, in our world. The cap for the Chapman Fund is only 250,000, only 250,000. So if we need more than 250,000, we're going to either need to go to a different source of capital or we can stack. We can do multiple types of loans. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up for questions. We do have a training video. So we're on chapmanloanprogram.org. There's a training video here in the middle that you're welcome to watch that will reiterate a lot of what we just discussed, quite frankly. And we ask everyone that wants to participate in this program to watch that video first, which we've kind of just covered now in our discussion today. And then there's so there's two steps, right? Step one and then step two. So if you know of anyone that would benefit from the Startup Business Funding Package, what would we want to do? We want to educate first, and that's done with step one, which hopefully I've helped you understand, but the video's here. And then you help them enroll, step two. So you click here, it's going to open a new screen. Little flyer describes, and it's real easy to enroll. And Petros is wanting me to remind you how we do that, and we actually how we pay for referrals, and we actually do pay $1,000 for each referral. So that is great. So what other questions do any of you have on the Startup Business Funding Package? We have 423 of you on today. Who has any questions that I can assist with? All right, again, Petro, he must have had his coffee this morning. So Petros wanted me to clarify what the performance fee is. So the performance fee is zero. There's no performance fee attached to this. So that's a great perk. A lot of times funding programs have a performance fee where clients pay 5% or 10% or more or less of the funding that they raise. There's no performance fee. So the answer is zero. Thank you, Petros, for reminding me to mention that. Toby, you got your hand up. Just go ahead and type the question for us in the Q&A and we'll get to it. So startup program, it's a great new resource. Not a new resource, relatively new, less than a year old from the grant that we received. It's real. We obviously commit to doing all these things in writing. There's no risk to the client. To learn more or to enroll, simply yourself or whomever you're referring in goes to chapmanloanprogram.org, complete step one, and then step two. Step one is on the honor system. So the truth is we don't really know if someone's done step one or not, but we would rather work with educated clients because just as we've gone through, I think somewhat carefully today, now you understand what's included. And so if I didn't say it, it's not included in general, right? So these are the deliverables. So you're educated. Anyone that's going to participate, we don't want them to come in with wrong pretenses. So what they'll do is watch the on-demand video and then enroll. So with that being said, if anyone's looking for funding and thinks that you would benefit from these deliverables, we'd be happy to work with you. ChapmanLoanProgram.org, and you simply will complete 2 steps. Step 2 will get you plugged in. We'll assign one of our advisors. All of our advisors either have worked at the SBA, like I have, or came from a banking background. So you're going to be working with someone that has a graduate education. You're going to have someone that has real relevant world experience. All of our advisors have gone through credit checks. We have to have at least a 700 credit score to be an advisor. All of us go through criminal checks, have to have clean criminal background. So it's interesting. There's a lot of people out there that is giving financial advice, and sometimes they're not as credible or educated or experienced. And so you can feel confident with our program. If there's any questions or concerns, of course, you got our phone number, you got our email, you can let us know, and we can go from there. But with that being said, have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow morning, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.